With a big wave of his hand, the old man just knew there was gold here, because he's dead sure an ancient waterfall is buried underwater, and the scour pool under that waterfall has got to be holding millions of dollars worth of gold. But if he wants to mine it, he needs permission from the claim owner, who is none other than his son Dustin. When Dustin heard which spot the old man was targeting, he kinda got lost in thought, cause 2 years ago he and the old man had already tried mining that so-called waterfall site together. The two of them, father and son, went down to mine and they had a brutal fight against the wild. Their dive setup got wiped out by a flood, and the two ended up fighting over where to actually dig for the gold. Dustin totally believed there was no gold in that so-called ancient waterfall. They ended up digging the hole 6 meters deep and only pulled out 13 ounces, that's 404 grams, of gold. Dustin couldn't handle that result, so the father and son split up right there. Now Fred wants to move just a little bit downstream from their old spot and start the operation all over again. He's convinced this new choice is definitely the gold deposit they've been looking for. Dustin doesn't really believe him, but he gets it, so he agreed to let Fred start digging on his claim. But here's the deal: if Fred strikes it rich, he's gotta cut Dustin in for a piece. Over the next 2 months, the old man's crew dealt with broken equipment, injured workers, and even a diver who just
Hey, Paul, where are you?
walked off the job. Even with 77-year-old Fred diving himself, all he managed to bring up was a tiny bit of flour gold, just tiny specks, but he's still convinced the deeper they dig, the more gold they're gonna find. Fred's dive hole is already at 4.3 meters. He thinks they're only halfway there. He has to keep following that ancient waterfall's wall down. He believes they need to drop another 4 meters to finally hit the huge gold stash on the bedrock, but right now a huge 6-foot 1.8 meter boulder is blocking their way. Fred's trying to widen the side of the dive hole so they can get deeper and push towards that bedrock gold, but a massive rock is hanging right there on the cave wall. If Fred keeps widening the hole and digs out the dirt under that boulder, that thing is gonna crash down and bury him alive right there. He spent a painful 2 hours trying to pry it with a crowbar, but the rock didn't even flinch. Next, he tried to strap the rock and use the cable winch to pull the whole thing straight out, but the strap couldn't hold onto the round rock at all. It slipped right off the second he pulled. Fred absolutely does not want the next diver going down with that death trap still hanging over their head. He sees handling these dangers as his responsibility, and even when the young guys on the crew wanted to help, he shut him down. Fred's acting like one stubborn old mule. He's gonna solve this rock problem today. Now he's moving on to plan C, using a power jet to blast the area around the rock. Once it's loose, he'll try to shove the rock into the dredge basket. Fred has been fighting this underwater for 4 solid hours now. His new plan is to set up a pulley 30 feet 9 meters upstream. The pulley is there to change the angle of the pull when the winch tugs the cable tied to the rock, so the cable won't slip when he's trying to drag the rock out of the whole wall. But guess what? It was still useless. The cable still wouldn't hold. After spending 5.5 hours just on this one rock, Fred finally threw up his hands and gave up. Meanwhile, Dustin's team is back at camp screening the gold they harvested from 3 dives last week. They dry out the gold to weigh it up. The fines and the nuggets total 11.4 ounces or 354.5 grams of gold. That's just their score from 3 days of diving, and all that gold came from under the giant rock he blasted in the previous episode. Since the season kicked off, Dustin's crew has pulled in a total of 25.6 ounces, that's 796.2 grams. You can see that big grin, he's definitely made back his operating costs for the year, and they've still got 2 months left to keep digging. There's also this one ugly thing mixed into the gold pile. Don't let the looks fool you. This thing is a huge clue. It's very likely gold that came straight from the main vein, because it's encased in a layer of rock, and unlike the other nuggets, the smooth polished surface means that kind of gold has been rolling around in the creek forever. But that piece of gold that looks like mud hasn't moved an inch, so it has to be straight out of the primary gold source. They're making money already, and they haven't even hit the main bedrock layer yet. Defeated Fred made a special trip to ask Dustin for help to see if they could figure out a way to take care of that rock. Dustin, who just so happens to be a master of underwater blasting, immediately said yes. The next day, Dustin and his crew went to save Fred's gold season.
We are here to save the day!
Two father and son are joining forces once more. Dustin is putting Carlos, his most seasoned diver, on the job. Carlos will use a high-pressure underwater drill to bore 3 holes into the boulder, then load the blasting rods. Finally, he'll pull the trigger on the detonator. The shockwave from the explosion is gonna crack the giant rock wide open from the inside.
4, 3, 2, 1, contact.
After the blast, Carlos jumped back into the dive hole to confirm the success. The rock was totally shattered into tiny fragments, and Dustin's team's task was complete. Then they headed back to their own dive site to continue their work, and Fred's crew was finally cleared to push toward the bedrock. They first cleared away the blast debris, and then gold immediately appeared right in front of them. They suck up the material from the bottom with the hose until they wrap up today's dive. Finally, it's time to check the haul inside the sluice box.
Holy
Fred,
boy.
damn.
Fred, you might want to come and take a look. What you got? I see a piece.
Yeah, look at those pieces.
Whoa. Look back here, too. Look at those. Oh. There we go. Good job.
Damn.
Damn.
This one single dive brought up more gold than all their previous totals combined. That just gave Fred's team a massive burst of adrenaline.